we're at Season of Defiance, and I want to flip it up a little bit. We're going to talk about the story last because, did I not like the story. So let's talk about the weapons first. Negatives. There is no rocket launcher, there is no machine gun, and there is no hand cannon. That's mainly my preference. I personally believe one of the grenade launchers should have been waveframe or the condensed waveframe if we had to have two of them in the seasonal stock. The crystal on all of these Season of Defiance weapons don't change color. The weapons themselves feel kind of lackluster, save for the Perpetualis because it's a strand weapon, and Roncature, but that's because it's a stasis bow. But the positives? They look beautiful. Much easier to obtain crafting for compared to the Neomuna weapons. Some of them have great perks you can craft onto them. Alright, let's talk about the Season of Defiance activity. Negatives. It's Shadow Legion and Taken. Nothing special. It's Cabal and Taken. Let's be real. There's arbitrary difficulty with invulnerability phases on the bosses, like always, nothing new. It just overall feels like a strike with only one exception, but still not enough of that exception to make me want to do it hardly ever, not even for the powerful or the pinnacle or whatever the hell reward it's given a week. But what's good, mob density in the final boss encounter feels pretty good. Being attacked from all sides, enemies all over, getting blasted all over, you have the Taken literally running into your well, into your Queen Mara well thing, to try to just kill you. It feels great. It feels chaotic the entire time. Opening the final chest makes a lot of colors and loot pop up, even if the loot is kind of garbage, so me happy, me like colors on screen. Whew, here we are, Season of Defiance story. Jesus Christ, okay. It is never explained why the Shadow Legion were kidnapping civilians from the last city. It's not even hinted at. As far as I know, I've done the whole story. There's nothing to speculate about it. It has to just be because they needed a reason to give Amanda Holliday somewhat of a relevant fucking role. Speaking of Amanda Holliday's death was completely forced, illogical, pointless, a waste of a character, and almost an insult to the player base's intelligence. Holy shit. We ended that mission as Guardians walking into the same room the cutscene shows her busting into where she died. Where the fuck is our Guardian? Why does our Guardian walk out of the garage below? Marasov's reactions and emotions felt a little bit rushed and forced for character development. She seemed to care simply a little too much about Amanda, and I get that she's been opening up emotionally, but with Amanda Holliday, it just seemed like a little much. And ironically, Crow didn't seem to be angry enough that this woman, that the game and the story literally hints at as subtly as a train hitting you, is in love with. He doesn't seem all that mad, and he should be. I would have loved a final mission where there's just Crow going absolute ape shit in the engine room, blowing stuff up, shooting Cabal left and right, but no, he's just calm, cool, and collected, like it's just another day. That's not character development, that's character stagnation. Keep this up, it's going to be character regression. Speaking of the final mission was just lackluster and it felt rushed. Like they did not care about putting quality into a season finale quest. There wasn't even a big boss. There wasn't like any connection between us and a big boss like taunting. It was literally just kill some Shadow Legion, run into the fucking engine room, blow up a bunch of little engine coils that were very super easy to just blow up without any effort. The mobs weren't even that difficult. It was so lazy. Bungie's send-off for Amanda, even with Zavala's voice acting and appearance in the story, was weak. She got a tiny little grave. Couldn't even give her a cutscene for a funeral. I'm surprised they gave her a cutscene for her death, but that was only because they thought that was a big, impactful, sad moment. Congrats, you gave us like 1.5, maybe 2 seasons in the entirety of Destiny 2's existence where Amanda Holliday had some sort of screen time or relevancy. You know what they could have done after for a send-off to Amanda? Just like they do at the initial quest in Destiny 2, we get to choose like Sunshot or Risk Runner or whatever the hell the other one is. They should have had this quest just as a flavor thing, and for people who don't have it, reward all players who do it with the Chaperone Exotic. I think even people who hated the story, for a moment when they see that Chaperone Exotic pop up on the screen, you would have to be heartless not to feel just a little tinge on your heartstring. Just a small one, just a little, oh, okay. But no, they didn't. And I'm like, how is this hard? How is this hard to think about? I'm a nobody on the internet. I can think of better ways to tell a story than Bungie's story writing. Now, some good things. Marasov having a central role, especially physically in the game world, where you can actually see her and walk up to her, and she's animated to float down to pay attention to you. That's a great change of pace for the character itself. Zavala grieving over Amanda's grave gave her death enough weight for it to show up on a scale. Once again, Zavala and anything he voices, for the most part, just carries the scene, carries the season, carries the game. You get to hear characters talk to each other that you would have never thought you'd hear actually conversate with one another, and it feels pretty good. It made the characters, the story, and the world, even for those dialogue, even if it was just during those dialogue lines, it made everything feel connected and built upon. Like hearing Amanda Holiday and Queen Mara Sov herself have a conversation. Now let's talk about the real reason anybody ever comes back to Destiny. It's not for the story, it's not for the mommy milkers, it's not for Ada One Thighs, or whatever the hell Steam players are naming their characters nowadays. No, it's for the exotics. Let's be real. Final warning. Pretty unique with a change in playstyle between hip firing and ADS, as well as innate unraveling. Personally, I'm okay with sidearms being the super giga gimmicky exotic archetype, and this fits perfectly, while also kind of just being useful for the most part. Conditional finality. I don't have it, but from what my friends tell me, the gun is super fun. I personally adored the theme of these balancing elements, kind of like a yin-yang, and the gun procs freeze and ignite at the same time. Quicksilver Storm. Don't have it either. I'm a casual schmuck who's poor and unlucky, but I have seen it, I have died to it, and I'm told it's a very good assault rifle that is fun to shoot and makes you feel like one of those old war movie commandos just charging in, guns blazing, turning around, blasting grenades like you're in a Michael Bay flick. Vergless Curve. A new exotic bow, which is always nice, especially a stasis one, but the functionality of it is a lot more gimmicky than it is useful. The feel of your hipfire just slooping to the ground like they do, like a lick-it-up man schlong while he's trying to convince the woman he took home for some action that he's a grower, not a shower, it just doesn't feel good to fire. Especially if you're not a stasis class. Especially on warlocks, who have no easy way to actually call shatter, like the Crayon Eaters and the sentient jumping jacks over there do. The mechanic isn't exactly unique, nor does it feel good to use unless you're a sweatlord in PvP who can make the most of it, in my honest opinion. Vexcalibur. Cool name, good wordplay, but wrong archetype Bungie. Read up on lore, Excalibur was a sword? Didn't need to force this wordplay on a glaive just to get an exotic glaive out. It looks cool, but it kind of out of place. As a Guild Wars 2 player, it looks like something from the Super Adventure box where everything looks like it's from an old pixel game. Does bonus melee damage, but only when having a specific overshield that is granted by blocking damage with the glaive. The overshield is also granted gradually, not instantly. Mechanically, it's just too many steps for a mediocre payoff in really any high-end content or even PvP. In low-end content, I mean, it's still too many extra steps for a payoff that doesn't seem like it'd be seen as fun and exciting for anyone. Deterministic Chaos. Exotic LMGs for me are always some of the funnest exotics in the game. Grand Overture, Heir Apparent, Xenophage, I guess Thunderlord. But this one, its numbers and mechanic are pretty shit. Every fourth bullet while specifically holding the trigger down, which feels oddly abrasive for a low RPM LMG, it weakens targets and makes them volatile. There are better ways than using a heavy and an exotic slot to make enemies volatile and weakened, even if the numbers on the gun were great. Its main mechanic would still only be considered a nice little cherry on top to its damage and not the main reason people use it. And when that happens with an exotic, you have failed at making an exotic. It is not exotic. It is just an LMG that has a slightly good little effect to it. Now, if you change the perk to every fourth shot fired in general without having to hold down the trigger before reloading applies its effects, it would feel a little bit better to use because now you can at least target that round and hold it. It wouldn't be any more useful really, but it would still feel a little bit more versatile to use for whatever weird meme builds people want to do. Winterbite. Holy shit, Winterbite. This is the best glaive exotic Bungie has ever made, period, and I will fight you to the death in Minecraft. This is one of the best and most unique exotics, in my honest opinion, in the game. Enhanced melee damage, which means like it just does more damage than other exotic, which is great. At this point though, it's like, why not just give glaives more melee damage and then create a more unique perk, but whatever. It feels good to use for melee regardless, and it feels great to fire. You can very easily blow yourself up with it though. You and that Kalal are gonna be fucking snowmen. You try to hit fire this thing at point blank range. On top of that, it's just overall beautiful looking weapon with the stasis theme around parts of the weapon. Now let's talk about the new class exotic. Starting with Titans, we have Abeyantly. Every Strand Titan I've seen since This expansion dropped, uses it. Incredibly versatile with great AoE CC for PvE and PvP, but the mechanic of Titans using a barricade and it shooting a wave has always felt thematically clunky to me. Regardless, it's too useful not to use if you're trying to be efficient. It feels clunky as well because the mechanics of it make the actual barricade produced useless. Because doing it gives you a lot of woven mail and you've caused mass CC, you're encouraged to just randomly throw your barricade out for the CC, then with woven whale, and then just run straight forward into the fray with your massive damage reduction and start blasting shit, which just leaves your barricade way over there in the back, not doing its initial job of being a barricade. It feels gimmicky a little bit because it just says like, yeah, forget what barricade actually does. Just consider this a button that causes mass CC and gives you damage reduction. Oh, it gives you a barricade too. We forgot about that. Yeah, just keep that in or something. I don't know. That was Bungie. Lastly, for Titans, there's Cadmus Rage Lance-Clap. Other than it being a pretty ugly fucking looking exotic, the Stasis face changes colors with shaders, so that's neat. The functionality makes Diamond Lances a lot more frequent, which is nice because I think that's personally the funnest part of Stasis Titan is the Diamond Lances. But the setup for it forces you into a too strict of a playstyle for my liking. It makes you use Rally Barricade, which is incredibly stupid to do in like high-end content or PvP. So it's basically just a casually fun exotic, but it's still too much setup for me to think of it as even a fun exotic to use frequently in low-end content. Now we have the Hunter exotics. So your Taranake's whatever facade. Woven Mail and Grappling is fucking silly strong. I don't know who the hell at Bungie thought about this. Makes Hunters more like Titans with the theme of flying and go ham with your damage resistance than Titans do. Somebody at Bungie literally went, what if we gave the most mobile class in the game more mobility with a new subclass and then an exotic that lets them hit the gritty with a Tormentor without having their soul rended? Then they get 2 charges for even longer prolonged Woven Mail. And then yeah, you got flinch resistance and that's a nice bonus. That's mainly for PvP though. Then there's Speed Loader Slacks, or as I spelled it incorrectly here, Speed Loader Slacks. And in my honest opinion, these exotics suck in everything that isn't Trials or high-rank competitive Crucible. Only people who play enough PvP, in my opinion, to utilize more airborne accuracy benefit from this. Maybe min-max day 1 rating for the reload speed, but Rally Barricade or other simple mods can also just do that without somebody else wasting an exotic. And last but not least, we have Warlock exotics. Welcome to Swarmers. Spawns more babies from pistachios, and now babies clog the barrels of guns with the fabric of reality. Did that make sense? No? Good. Overall, Swarmers is just a really beneficial exotic that makes the subclass more powerful with almost no downside, unless you're specifically not building for Threadlings, and if you're doing that, I believe you're also wearing full blues and you're just memeing around in Crucible. The only real downside is that they are fucking hideous looking. They look like baseball pants that you had your toddlers do arts and crafts on. And lastly, we have Ballad Dorsey Wrath Weavers. Woohoo! A damage exotic for a terrible super. So it increases the damage a bit, actually makes it better than the Chaos Reach, and oh how fucking far that super Chaos Reach has fallen to get beat out by Winter's Wrath at this point. With Geomags equipped, by the way. Now, it still doesn't make the super really worth using in high-end content, even with the bonus to stasis weapons and overshield for allies, because Strand is simply just a better version of stasis in almost every single way, shape, and form. So yeah, Warlock's got 1 great exotic and 1 useless exotic. Hunter's got 1 great exotic and 1, in my opinion, basically useless exotic. And then Titan's got 1 great exotic and then 1 basically useless exotic. I mean, damn, for Bungie, that's pretty well balanced. And we all know Bungie and balancing is not something that goes well together. Overall, the campaign and the release season of Defiance, their stories were mediocre at best. At worst, they were forgettable. And not because they weren't memorable, they were memorable because that's how bad they were. Forgettable because we are actively trying to forget what the fuck story was written for us to have to go through. On some of us, 3 different times. But what really made this expansion a sell and a win was simply the world building was great. The mob density that we've been asking for years has been outstanding and has made events feel great to do. More stuff to fight, more stuff to kill, more bullet hell, more actually using our kits, using our weapons, using our abilities, using heals, using comps to actually survive it. Neomuna, the city itself, is beautiful. The weapons look beautiful. Some of the exotics do look quite beautiful. And overall, personally for me, running around Neomuna City is a lot more enjoyable than it was running around Witch Queen and whatever the hell, Savathun's Throne World. So overall, if I had to give a rating for Lightfall as a whole, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. If Strand was a bad subclass, it'd be getting a 5 out of 10. Once again, Callus's voice actor saved most of the story, in my personal opinion. If I had to give Season of Defiance a rating, I would honestly give it I'd give it a 4 out of 10. The story was whatever. Seeing Queen Marasab was nice, but they killed off a character and tried to have us care about it, even though it was illogical and stupid. But thankfully, once again, thankfully, and I know everybody agrees with me, the big three carried not only the Lightfall story and its atrocity, but the Season of Defiance story and its atrocity, Strand, Talos' voice actor, and Zavala's voice actor. Bungie, for fuck's sake, do better the next season. Don't be like Blizzard. Stop blizzarding up your seasons where you have one good one, one bad one, one good one, one bad one. I don't know what's going on here, but maybe get out of bed with Blizzard for a moment and make sure the next season actually is well written. Regardless whether it is or not, we're gonna play it anyway, so, you know, we'll just bitch less if it's good.
Hey, classmate, stay quiet so the Grandmaster doesn't hear us talking during training. Could you spare a subscribe and a like? Maybe click the bell as well if it's not too much trouble? Thanks. Oh, Grandmaster's coming this way. Act natural.